Welcome to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. This is where you're going to discover how to bring awakening into the body and into everyday life through powerful tantric teachings. Get ready to release, open and step into your true power.
So I have my pre-Tantra life of working with trauma, which was very analytical, which was really, tracking things that happened in my childhood, things that happened in my relationships, in my sexual relationships, and understanding at a very mental level why I had certain behaviors and where they stemmed from. And even though I did engage with some somatic practices around that, nothing really shifted me into a space of just being able to feel safe in my body until I found Tantra. And the approach to trauma that Tantra takes is it doesn't really separate trauma from any other stuck energy in the body. And all of the practices in Tantra are really about getting completely present with what's alive in your body and allowing a process of allowing anything to release that's not our essential nature, anything to release that is not the love that we are. So when we have triggers arise, when there is contraction in the body and something has happened, this is really the time that is such a perfect catalyst and doorway into liberating ourselves from trauma and from stuck energy in the body, because often when we're having a high reaction to something, it's reminding us of something else, or it's triggering something that's already inside of us. So one of the things that I love about Tantra and tantric practice is that it really encourages you to go into the unconscious through the body and go into your shadows through the body. So to give you an example, maybe I'm feeling really triggered because my partner's going away, and he's physically away from me. This is often a big trigger for women. And there's a few reasons for that. The first reason is very primal and biological in a way. The man is the protector, and at a super primal level, he is going and hunting and gathering, and he's responsible for bringing the food home. So there's this primal unconscious longing to have a man by ourselves, protecting us and providing for us. So when a man goes away, especially for longer periods of time, there's this big trigger in the body of fear that sometimes can be really hard to understand, especially if he's only going away for like a shorter period of time and we're still experiencing some anxiety or fear. And then, of course, there's so many triggers that can happen in relationship, which are triggering different traumas in the body, depending on what you've experienced in your life. So, in that example of a man going and having that primal trigger of the hunter, gatherer, protector is not by my side, there's also the personal unconscious and the personal triggers that happen. So, maybe in our lives, someone has really betrayed us when they were away from us, or they never came back, or, different things have happened. Or maybe it's just triggering the abandonment from our father or the abandonment from someone significant in our lives. It doesn't really matter. So the thing with Tantra is we're not trying to pinpoint or find necessarily the childhood experiences that are creating the trauma response in the body. It's really moving away from a mental approach and just going, okay, if I just close my eyes and I feel into this high trigger in my body, this charge in my body, and I'm completely present to that, and I validate it for myself. I don't need anyone else to validate that. I'm like, okay, I'm scanning my body. I'm like, my heart's beating really fast. There's all this fear in my body, whether it's of intimacy, abandonment, failure, you're about to get up and do something on stage and you're afraid that people are going to judge you, whatever it is. So many times when these triggers show up, we just shove them down and we distract ourselves either through the mentalization of that trigger and trying to work it out and trying to find a solution or find someone to blame. Or we think, oh, I'm experiencing this because this time that happened and that time that happened. And we're finding all of these reasons. And while it's really obvious sometimes the childhood experiences or the past experiences that are creating the trigger, I can't emphasize enough that even though that's helpful sometimes to shine the light of awareness, that's not it. What is it is being able to dissolve any kind of resistance or conflict that we have with those sensations and what's showing up, and fully surrender into the body and allow the innate wisdom of the body and the naturalness of the body to begin a process of purging out or releasing trauma that exists in the body by having the discipline to go within whenever we get triggered. So let's just say you're about to get on stage, or your partner's away, or, you know, someone has said something that's making you feel unworthy, whatever it is. Instead of going into the mind or distracting with any of the ways that you distract and repress your body, right? Analysis, drugs, alcohol, sleep, whatever it is. In this situation of a tantric practice where we're going in to resolve trauma naturally, or to purge trauma naturally, we are being with what arises in us without creating separation from our experience and without creating separation with anyone else. So what does that look like? What it looks like is we're taking our focus off the external. We're coming inward. We're breathing and we're going, okay, what's happening here? There's a lot of charge in my body. And we're identifying what is that charge and where is that charge? Maybe it's really in our hearts. And instead of analyzing, we're just real, you know, like we're scudgeoning our heart. We're coming into contact with it. We're nurturing ourselves. We're like, okay, let's treat that part of us with compassion, with love, and get curious about it. And often when we're triggered, we're wanting validation or acknowledgement from someone else. So an important part of this process is like identifying, okay, God, my heart's beating really fast. I'm having all of these feelings. What's going on here? Oh, I'm really, really scared. Or I'm really sad. Or I'm frustrated. Or I'm enraged, whatever it is. So let's go with fear, because fear's often a first layer. So there's all this fear in my heart. Fair enough. So you want to validate it before you do anything else. All right, with compassion. It's fair enough I'm having this experience. I'm just about to go on stage for the first time, or I'm feeling rejected, I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling like a failure, whatever it is. But the communication is happening internally. This is the most important communication. You're never going to love yourself without this communication happening, without you needing to resolve things with other people. It's not really about that. Sometimes we need to set boundaries. Sometimes we need to make requests, but we don't really need to share our process or have them be part of the resolution of that process. They can be part of the communication that naturally follows from the resolution, but they don't need to be part of this. And so often we're dragging people into our dramas, dragging people into our experience, because we're either wanting a savior to come and rescue us, or we're wanting to make it somebody else's fault and make them an enemy. We don't need enemies. We don't need saviors, right? In Tantra, the idea is to remember that we are the love we're searching for. We are the freedom that we're searching for. So it starts here. We scan the body. We identify what we're experiencing. Next, we validate our experience. Fair enough. This is so understandable that you're feeling that way. And then we dive. So usually people are like, just, if you can imagine the ocean, just swimming on the surface of the ocean, having chats. Oh, Tara, isn't the ocean so nice? This is fun. Look how sunny it is. What are we going to do tomorrow? That was really cool how we did this and this. Or, you know, if we're upset, oh, I can't believe this happened, that happened, but we're just swimming on the surface. So Tantra is about getting your scuba gear on and deep diving much deeper to those waves on the surface and entering the stillness that is underneath what's happening on the surface, and just coming into a space of breathing into what is, witnessing without judgment, and creating safety for the body to return to our emotional innocence and be much like a child and allow that fucking energy to move. It doesn't matter why it's there. It doesn't matter what it's coming. It's here. It's alive. So let's feel it. So, touching the heart and feeling that fear and shaking, allowing the adrenaline in the body to actually release and not to be down. Now, when a lot of spirituality, a lot of spiritual practices, rather than intentionally going into a sympathetic state or intentionally looking at our adrenaline, they're often bypassing, and I experienced this a lot pre-Tantra in the spiritual and personal development world, where, everything is one, we forgive, we meditate by just sitting in stillness. And I was still anxious as fuck. And I still hadn't remembered like a big piece of my trauma from my childhood, right? Until I got into Tantra and started actually feeling everything fully. Now, obviously, if you're a coach or if you're working with yourself and you're not experienced with hard trauma, you're not experienced with working with it in a way that you need to know how to track the nervous system. So, for instance, with hard trauma like physical abuse, sexual abuse, a death, sometimes your body or a client's body might escalate into dissociation because it's too much for the body to handle. And what does that look like? That can look like freeze, the body naturally taking itself into parasympathetic by leaving the body. Or it can look like panic, lots of chest breathing and the client's not breathing anymore or you're not breathing anymore. If at any time this happens, what you want to do is bring yourself back to a parasympathetic state as quickly as possible through deep breathing, through looking around the room, reminding yourself that you're safe. And we're in 2024. We're not in, 1983 when the trauma happened. It's okay. You're safe. Sometimes to get to parasympathetic or to get to a relaxed nervous system, you have to actually go from that dissociative state to just running a bit of fight or flight. So punching a little bit and saying no, or running your feet on the spot. And so you want to be able to bring yourself back. And if you do have hard trauma, you need to work with a professional, right? Or if you're working with a client with hard trauma and you have never studied trauma healing in depth and you don't know how to work with the different variety of expressions in the nervous system, then you want to refer them on. But for the sake of this live, I'm talking about soft trauma. I'm talking about the trauma that happens to all of us through neglect, through, disappointment, betrayal, things that create self-protective mechanisms, abandonment, failure, etc. So, okay, you're feeling it, you're going into your adrenaline, and you're allowing yourself to move, breathe, and sound with the buzz of what's inside of you instead of pushing it down. And if you look at children, they naturally do this. When they're angry, they throw a tantrum. When they're upset, they cry. When they're frustrated, they might beat a cushion. Where all of these different experiences that children have is a natural responsiveness of the body to fear, to sadness, to anger. And we've lost touch with that. We spend 12 years at school where we have to sit down and shut up. Well-meaning teachers and parents often subdue us when we're having strong feelings. Stop throwing a tantrum, or put a dummy in our mouth, or tell us to go to our room, whatever it is. So, with trauma in Tantra is like working with anything in the body. It's about expressing finally what you have suppressed in the body. So let it out and keep asking yourself, what's here now? Because there's so many layers in our body. So maybe the first layer is fear. And we're shaking. Shaking is a great one for fear. Again, children do that naturally. Animals do that naturally. It's like we're so fucking stupid in modern Western culture. Like Indigenous cultures shake a lot, which is equivalent to the threat of death because of the death of our ego. a relationship breakup, or, you know, we're launching a project and we might fail and it feels fucking scary, or we're going into a new relationship, or, you know, we're moving house, or whatever it is, we can kind of feel like that gazelle who's being chased by the lion and death hasn't caught us yet, right? So, you know, the metaphorical death of the ego, we're not actually dying, but we're feeling the threat of that. And when that's really intense, what does an animal do when there's been the threat of death? They shake, right? So that adrenaline release is allowing energy to move, shaking it out, letting out sound. So right now, everybody just close your eyes for a moment, scan the body and feel if there's any fear in it. Feel if there's fear around your relationship, around your career, around a project that you're launching, anything at all. And I would like you to feel where that charge of fear is and bring your hands very lovingly to that place. Channel love from your heart into your hands. It's safe to be in your body. It's safe to feel this. You don't need to create an enemy or a savior. This is your experience, and it's fair enough that you're having it. It's valid. It's okay to feel this. And now grab your scuba gear and go beneath the surface of your analytical mind. Go beneath the surface of your resistance and just let yourself feel that fear without judgment, without resistance. So breathe into it and give it sound. Now I want you to just start shaking the body because that's an easy one. Shake the legs, shake the arms. We're going to do this for a minute. Put out sound, shake the forwards, shake the arms, make the hips. So much emotional tension in the hips. You really let the hips move so hard if you need to. Get some kundalini moving through the body. Let out sound. Let out sound. Return to the emotional innocence of the childlike state, which is the master state. Trust the innate wisdom of your body to eliminate clutter and stuck energy just by being present with your direct experience and following the flow in your body in that moment. 20 more seconds here. Give it all you've got. Shake, 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 shake. And honor yourself with a beautiful. Slow it down. And then just breathe in and out of your mouth for the last 10 seconds. And air through the nose. Nice deep breaths. Bring one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just notice how you feel after 1 minute of shaking. If you're someone with a lot of fear and anxiety about things, shake first thing in the morning, shake as many times as possible during the day. You're not just going to be eliminating the fear in this moment, but you're going to be allowing stuck energy from your life that you haven't given yourself full permission to feel. And just feel how much more authentically you can rest in your body when you're allowing what isn't your essential nature, which is peace, which is love, which is freedom, to release. From here, it's like, and what's here now? Maybe there's a bit of sagging or longing. Maybe there's calm. And you just keep going like that. So open your eyes, because I can't monitor everyone. I could keep going and take it really deep, and I'd love to, but come to Living Tantra in Costa Rica or Tara's Fundamentals of Tantra this weekend, or, see someone if you're really needing support with this. Otherwise, after this live, just check it out. Just get curious about what's happening inside. Go to the top layer, let yourself shake, breathe a bit deeper. what's here now? And maybe there's some longing or sadness, and then just open up to that. Oh, you don't even have to know what it's about. This is key. This is the difference. One of the big differences between Tantra and traditional trauma therapy. We are okay in the unknown. And there's a deep remembering through other practices that we are one with all that is, and anything that is not in the remembering of that is an illusion that we can free ourselves of. Every time there's a trigger, every trigger is a doorway into liberation. Anytime I have a trigger, I am like, thank you. And you can ask Tara, who's been friends with me for 8 years. I don't share what my trigger is about. I don't go into it. I don't think I've ever invited you into the drama of my process, and you're my best friend. So, maybe, I don't know, I don't recall a time. But I will just speak the boundary or the request. So you're with someone who practices what she preaches. If you haven't already downloaded Tantra 101, which is our free ebook, do that. I give you lots of practices. So here we are. We've purged the emotional body. We've expressed and released. You let yourself come into that parasympathetic, beautiful state, and then I integrate the experience of filling the space that has been released just with some good old-fashioned affirmations. If you try affirmations before you've released, it's horse shit. Trust me, I did it for so long. I never believed, oh, beautiful or lovable or safe, not at a deep intrinsic level. But after we've released, we can come home. So just put your left hand under your right arm, your right hand under your left. Give yourself a big squeeze. You will tell yourself, you are so freaking right. You are so lovable with all of your experiences. You don't have to be perfect. You're lovable just as you are. You can trust life. Life has your back. Really breathe into that nice and deeply through the nose. And open and expand, receive energy from the earth and love from yourself and the whole friggin' world. Breathe love into your heart. And then bring your shoulders up and back. Relax and release. Wow. We'll just keep doing that while I say a few words to you. You are lovable. You are wonderful. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. You are a child of God. You are one with God. You are not separate. Whatever word, I don't have issues with the word God, but if you do, you are one with the whole universe. You are one with love. You are one with freedom. And any time that you're not remembering that, the practice of Tantra is to come home to that remembering. And in that process, anything that's not that, including our trauma, has a chance to be released from the body. Okay, just pushing on your heart. I love you. Just saying it to yourself. Love you, Tara. I really, really love you. Just giving that message to yourself. I love you. Really, really love you. Whatever your name is. I love you. Really scooching your heart. Squish it with your hands. I love you. I love you. Just like you would with a beautiful child. So I could keep guiding to cows come home, but now that you're back, Tara, I'll invite some conversation. That's nice, sweetheart. I can feel you more here and more loving yourself.
Yeah, with everything that you just shared, what I find so fascinating is just this deep resistance to feeling pain within the human psyche that is societal, it's fucking generational, it's like you name it, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to share with the listeners that like there has not been a single time that I've had the courage to feel what's there when I really haven't fucking wanted to, but I've done it. That on the other side, I haven't been like, oh, thank you for Tantra. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for doing this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's two things. One is like that I'd love for you to speak into as well is, okay, so at an embodied level, I know that this is good for me, but how to actually make that more of a part of people's lives, that they actually sit, they actually pause, they actually feel rather than keep going. And the second thing is, and
let me answer
kind of
that
feed
first, because I'm in the responsiveness of it. So if you can all understand that feeling is healing, because actually the part of us that resists is trying to find a solution. It has all of this agenda, right? When we're wanting to heal, we're wanting to heal this. So maybe something happens and we're looking up, what do I do with this? Or we're deferring to a friend or a coach or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with those things. But in here, the innate wisdom of your body is already present. That is like that animal I described. And if we understand that simply feeling, when we are fully alive in that breathing, moving, sounding like a child, including the feminine into meditation, rather than just observing, then that loving presence without any agenda is what works. And the only way you're going to get that is through practice. And the only way you're going to practice it when triggers are there is through a daily practice, because that's the entrainment. If you're not having a daily practice of supporting yourself to feel and actually be alive in that, and maybe it's just shaking every day, then it's going to be really hard when those triggers show up to do it, because that's the hardest time to have the discipline to go in. That fight or flight response is so strong, and it's easy to just give in to the temptation to blame or to run, right? So the daily practice is a whole other topic. Tara and I are actually giving a free masterclass. If these topics interest you, please join up. We're going to be talking about the importance of a daily practice and how, similar to the gym, it's so important for the entrainment of your mental and emotional body. Just like the gym is training your physical body, and you can't expect to change your body and have big muscles if you're only going to the gym. You know, like, I don't know much about the gym. If you were going once a fortnight, I would assume not that much would be changing. But if you were going every day and having the discipline to, you know, walk one day, lift weights another day, whatever, your body's going to change, right? If you're going to change the programming of your mental reality, which tends to focus on everything we don't have, the past, the future, right? What's lacking, scarcity, all the beliefs we got from our parents, and finding a solution. If we're not healing that through the act of loving presence, then our mind's always going to be head fucking us. If we're not healing the emotional body through allowing all the stuck energy that's accumulated all your life, if you've never done anything like this, then you're going to keep being tired, because pushing it all down creates exhaustion. And you're going to sometimes create illness. I'm very good at that. Or injury, as soon as I'm suppressing my emotional body, it shows up very quickly. I've had my adenoids taken out, my tonsils taken out, my cervix taken out, because I was always bypassing into this spiritual state of oneness, which served me to an extent, right? It served my mental health. I've always naturally been really good at focusing on the positive and not head fucking, but it did not serve this deeper part of me that actually needed attention and love when I was feeling things, not to be bypassed. It needed permission to be in that childlike state of just breathing, moving and sounding with my emotions, throwing a tantrum, hitting pillows, crying, asking for what I need. Now, one of the things that I notice, a big pattern with people, is once they start to work with me, they think that they're expressing and releasing the emotion and the stuck energy, but they're actually just expressing and releasing resistance. So that's a first step, but that's not it, right? The feeling is healing when resistance is dissolved. And yeah, that requires a meditating mind. So stillness meditation is still valid. And I do that whenever I go into my emotional body, but after any charge is gone. Now, the other thing about this is it's not always unpleasant when we go into our body, right? So it's also the level to which you feel your pain. I always say this, and people quote me on it, is the level to which you can feel your pleasure, right? And sometimes I'll start with fear, or I'll start with some form of something that's painful, and it gets ecstatic very quickly. I'm shaking, and then I'm feeling turned on, or I'm feeling like so free in that, and energy is expanding. I start laughing, and I'll like be moving and dancing. So just to footnote that. But then after I've allowed myself to intentionally go into sympathetic, to intentionally run fight or flight, run adrenaline, feel pleasure moving through my body, then the meditation is so much more authentic, because that fight or flight isn't just going into the mind and creating all these thoughts that we're like, I'm so bad at meditating, my mind's still going, your mind is still going so fast because you've got all this energy that you haven't expelled. So you want to know more about daily practice and going from emotional suppression to emotional expression, join Tara and I in the masterclass. It's going to be awesome and it's free. Also, sexual energy, which will also be talked about in the masterclass, is the other amazing tantric approach to trauma that I fucking love, because sexual energy has given me permission to release so much trauma out of my body, especially because I've had sexual abuse. So sexual energy, now I want to predecess this with something important. I'm not talking about sexual energy that, okay, we start here, we have a goal towards ejaculating or coming, and everything that's happening in between these two is just driving towards this goal. What I'm talking about is that this in between is a present moment erotic meditation where we're fully alive, fully present, without needing to orgasm. It can happen or it cannot. But this in between is just orgasmic, and we're feeling everything. And in that process, orgasmic energy, right? Not a clitoral orgasm or a quick orgasm. There's nothing wrong with those if they happen naturally. But if we're just driving towards it, we're missing the experience. And as we're just in the experience of intimacy and love with our beloved and feeling all of that pleasure, anything that's not love rises to be released, right? And sexual energy has a way of pushing trauma out that is so beautiful. I've had the most incredible experiences of release through sexual activation and orgasmic energy. So orgasmic energy is a healing modality. Pleasure is a nervous system regulator. So again, jump on our masterclass and tap into these 3 topics that will completely change your life.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, and that's happening November 8th. And we'll put a link below for you to see that. Yeah, beautiful. And I think this other part of what you were sharing around the resistance as well is it's like we judge so much how we're feeling. So that judgment is like a pushing away of a part of ourselves that is just feeling something. And I often kind of connect with the analogy of, if that was my friend who was feeling something, or if that was a child who was feeling scared or angry or frustrated or sad, we wouldn't go, oh, stop being stupid. We'd be like, oh, fair enough. Mm-hmm. But we judge ourselves, which is also what stops us from pausing, being in the mind and dealing with it externally to actually come within. And so a big shift for me is always that part that's up, whatever it is to first of all just like I start here. Be like, I'm here, I love you, it's fair enough. And then kind of there's a softening that enables me to then start breathing into it and shaking.
Yeah, not a bit different. Yeah. As Tara also knows, I'm an absolute firecracker. And when my emotional body is triggered, I'm just fucking fire, whereas Tara's more water. So there's no way I could be like, oh, I love you, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, fucking start shaking, start throwing shit around. And I'm like, it's fair enough, I'm feeling what I'm fucking feeling, and fuck anyone who tells me otherwise. So, you'll get to know yourself. And like any relationship, communication is such an important part of that. So I love what you're saying there, Tara. It's like beginning with that communication in whatever you need. It's like, hey, yeah, fucking explode. And fuck everyone really works for me. For you, it's like, see, I can't get to that till the end. And often at the end of your process, you're the opposite, where you've like found your boundaries and you found your power. So that's why we really complement each other. And Matisse and I really complement each other, because fire and water when they combine, it's this beautiful dance where you can learn from each other deeper vulnerability and deeper power. Something else I wanted to say about the resistance is that when we are in conflict with what's happening inside, life is always a reflection of what we're projecting from inside. So whatever is going on in here is going to show up here. So if there's a lot of conflict here, there's going to be a conflict with life. There's going to be a conflict with people. And I don't have conflict with really anyone. Or if I do, it's very momentary. It's as long as this conflict is here. When I'm like, and my self-protective mechanisms are up, I'm spiky. And when I'm in that state, it's usually like, nah, I don't want anything to do with that person. And I'm ready to just cut. And then, of course, there's the journey into the emotional body. So remember that the outer conflict that shows up in your life with people and with life is directly reflecting to you the inner conflict that you're projecting out. So we can feel that, again, this could go in lots of directions, Tara. So I reckon let's finish the questions because we're at 11:43 and I need to finish 12 at the latest.
Great. So the first question is around how can healing trauma help us have better physical health?
If we're repressing trauma, if we're repressing our emotions, this is what's happening in the body, right? And cells duplicate. So it's like there's this stuck energy, it's not being released, and it's manifesting, of course, as physical tension, as a sore back, as RSI, as cancer, as chronic fatigue syndrome, as all of these things that you and I both had a combination of, Tara, and thrush or UTIs is really common in women if sexual trauma is coming up, right? And that doesn't have to be like intense sexual trauma. It can even just be where you've made love when you haven't been ready, which is so many women at so many stages of their relating because we feel bad if we're not ready and we force ourselves. So yes, 100%.
Absolutely. And my story with 4 years of RSI, repetitive strain injury, chronic back pain, in and out of hospital, like you name it. And after seeing Western Australia's best practitioners of physios, chiro, even like neural reprogramming, it was doing sessions with you. It was doing embodiment sessions of releasing that stuck energy in my body that enabled me to be able to work and be functional again. It's just fucking mind-blowing. So yes, absolutely.
And then because then you could work with me.
Win-win.
And I want to just say something here. It's like when you are living in your authentic alignment with truth and service, for the coaches and practitioners out there, actually money comes naturally. The people you need come naturally. When you're focused on outcomes, when you're focused on money, good luck. I can honestly say that from the beginning of my journey, money has poured in at different levels, and it gets more and more the more authentic I get and the more aligned I get with true service and truth, the clearer my being gets. And I want you to know that. It's like, be in your authenticity, align with service and truth. And that energy that you're putting out that comes from an authentic love for people, love for yourself, is going to be a beauty that comes to you, that you see reflected in your world. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I think we'll be touching on that in the live as well. It's a big part of what we'll be journeying with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So second question, there's 3. The second question is, can Tantra be used to rebuild trust in relationships after trauma?
100%. First of all, this is because a lot of the distrust we feel in a relationship is because of our past experiences. And those past experiences are often living in our body. And rather than feeling them fully, we've suppressed them and turned to addiction, distraction, or mentalizing our experience. So as you're eliminating your past from your body through the naturalness of being present with your direct experience, you're allowing that to move. The other way that it supports is that Tantra says, actually, can we trust anyone really with, okay, they're going to be there forever, or they're going to do this or they're going to do that? Because if we're coming from the perspective of liberation, then souls are free to do what they will do. And the most important person to trust is yourself, that no matter what is happening in your life, you have the nervous system capacity to be with what's arising in you, right? If we live in fear of pain, it's like distrust is obviously, I'm not going to trust you because if I do, I might get disappointed or hurt. And, you know, that is no way to live. So trust yourself, trust your capacity. And then obviously what the other thing that Tantra teaches, because Tantra is life and it's very realistic, it's like if you don't trust someone at a level that you want to be able to trust someone, just that they're, you know, if you're with someone, you want to know that they're a good person. And there's suspicious behavior going on. Like, trust your gut. There's some women who say to me, I don't trust my partner. I'm like, why? Because when I walk in, sometimes he's on his phone and then he puts it away. Or, you know, he'll come home from somewhere and I can just tell something's not right. It's like, okay, this is life probably going to you wrong. Can they be trusted? We can't, as women and the feminine in men as well, we're very intuitive. And if you can trust your gut, trust your inner wisdom, that's going to support you to trust people as well. It's like, what's your inner knowing telling you? What's life showing you? You know, when I was with Aaron, after a series of relationships where whenever I would share how I was feeling, there would be a punishment. I would share what I was feeling, and then this fear would come up, and it was hard for me to trust that he wouldn't punish me or still be there for me. So I would process that relative to my past experiences, and then he would still be there. And then it got to the point where, you know, when my throat would go into that freeze, he would just gently say to me, hey, can you just actually get who you're talking to here? I want you to share. If you look at the past together, when have I punished you? When have I ever ran away? It's time to just let go of that story and be with the man that we're with now. And it's like, oh yeah, fuck, I can trust him. So also using logic. If someone's always there for you, there for your kids, loving the shit out of you, you can trust their love, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. And the final question, which maybe is a wrap-up of this whole live, is what are some specific Tantra techniques for trauma release?
I think I already said it. It's like, look, the most simple one that I love is just consciously going into adrenaline. Go to my morning practice playlist as well. There's like beautiful songs to just drop you into the feeling is healing component. And, you know, since being with your sister, what I do now before the adrenaline release is a Koya technique, which is very in sync with Tantra, which is to circle the hips for a song first, just to help you get into your body. And we hold so much tension in the hips. So it's beautiful to circle for a whole song. Feel your emotions. If it's hard for you to feel your emotions, just go straight to the shaking, because everyone knows how to shake. There are shaking songs on my morning practice playlist. Otherwise, if you want a whole playlist of shaking songs, go to my adrenaline release playlist. That's Chantel Raven on Spotify. And then after you've shaked for a minimum of one song, it's like if you can dedicate like 10 minutes a day to having a practice of consciously releasing adrenaline, then consciously going into a relaxed parasympathetic state. So then I have beautiful relaxing songs on my morning practice playlist that are in that remembering, like beautiful mantra, you know, I am light, or, you know, mantra that's more connected to deities. And I just love to let go. That's the let go. That's the release. That's the parasympathetic surrender, where you just give yourself some affirmations and love. And then, you know, it feels irresponsible to go into deeper practices. But if anyone's interested in really going into practices that support trauma release from the perspective of Tantra, our practitioner training is phenomenal, and it's a synthesis of so much of my knowledge with EFT, meditation, somatic experience, trauma release, and then of course Tantra. So yeah, if you're a coach or you're an aspiring coach or healer, check it out.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to the wait list so that you can do that and access that. Beautiful. Well, I hope that really supports you all, and it can be as simple as and as life-changing as giving yourself 10 minutes every morning to shake, to express, to sound, to move, and then come into that parasympathetic relaxation, positive affirmations, and just give it a go. What do you have to lose? And I guarantee if you start your day that way, your day will flow very, very differently than if you wake up with the same thoughts as the day before and the day before that.
And letting it all be stuck, and then using addictions and distractions. And the biggest distraction we have is the mind. Like, let's leave the body and analyze the fuck out of everything. There was something said that made me want to say something. Oh, dance. So after the shaking, dancing is so beautiful because, you can flow with your different feelings and intentionally connecting with pleasure in the body and what feels good. So sometimes those stuck places, you can go into them and just be like, oh, it will feel good for that area of the body. Trust yourself, trust your body. I love you, Tara. I get to see you soon.
I love you. I know. I'm so excited.
Yay. All right, everybody. Thanks. I hope that was helpful. Tag a friend if you feel like it's going to help someone. Spread the word. Follow us. There's always lots of good tips. If you're not already in our newsletter, we're always supporting you guys. And our podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. For more great free resources, in-person and online workshops, and our retreats, find us on Instagram and Facebook at Embodied Awakening Academy, or visit embodiedawakeningacademy.com.